Hi everyone, welcome back to another continuing education check-in. And Sania, this is crazy. We made it to a full year. We've been releasing a new episode each week, every Monday except one, but it has been every week for a full year. And this is episode 52 now. We've hit a year, haven't missed a week. How are you feeling about that?
Honestly, I'm really proud of us. I feel like it takes a lot of hard work and determination to be this consistent and to be where we are. And honestly, looking back, I'm pretty proud of where we started versus where we are now. I feel like we learned a lot of cool things along the way and shared a lot of cool insights.
Yeah.
I feel like definitely this podcast affected my personal life a lot. Just in takeaways and lessons learned and having good skills when you're when there's conflict and things like that.
Yeah. I remember when we started, it was something that we wanted to do because we wanted to help people, but we didn't expect much out of it. We were just kind of going with the flow, and we said we'll do this for as long as we can.
Right.
And to do it for a whole year, and I think that's a huge accomplishment, and it takes a lot of grit and grind. And so even for ourselves, proving that we can do this and put in the work, and we've grown in a lot of ways too. Some special moments for me, I remember when we first started this, we would record multiple times a week so that we could get a backlog, and then I was waking up at 5 a.m. Every time we would record in order to make it to our studio, and so that we could do this. But keep in mind that before every episode, we're creating an outline.
Right.
We're talking about what topics we want to talk about, and then it's finding profiles to review. And there's a lot of prep work and scheduling and thinking and behind the scenes, and I'm really proud of us for that. I remember the first time I met someone who listened to the podcast that I didn't know, and it was at my friend's wedding, and they were just like, "Oh, are you Ethan from Sania and Ethan?" And it just of course our podcast mostly spreads through word of mouth, but it's just it's really heartwarming just to know that there are people who think that this is worth recommending to their friends, and then it's just really nice when we see or we hear stories of how this has helped you, or even that you're just excited to listen to the podcast in general.
I think a lot of people I know, they've said that it helps them bring up certain topics that are maybe they wouldn't bring up, because it's this week Sania and Ethan talked about X, and then they can use that as a segue to bring it up with their partner because maybe they wanted to talk about it. So that's been cool too.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think about how much we have grown. And so the podcast has changed over time. The first, 20-something episodes, we would always share tea before we went into our main topic. And that was to give you guys a glimpse into our lives and the lessons that we were learning and to share our experiences. And we kind of stopped that halfway. And I think it was important for us because our private lives, when we put it in a public space, we can get a lot of backlash, good and bad, just because other people know about our personal life. But even with that shift, it has been clear in our personal lives that there's been a ton of progress. And one thing that I've always taken a lot of comfort in is that we are our own success stories. And so a lot of times, earlier on, I shared a meme with Sania, and if you guys watch RDC World, they made a video making fun of podcasters, and they're like, anyone and everyone who thinks that they have relationship advice to share, becomes a podcaster. But I think for us, we have used the advice that we've been giving in our own lives, and we have been benefiting from that.
That's super true.
And so we know at least the advice that we're giving is helpful and it's working for us.
Yeah, because we use this podcast, like you said, to learn and to help us grow and like get better. And you're right, we did stop like the weekly tea times, but I feel like that was also to kind of, you know, instead of outwardly sharing like, oh, this is what's going on, we kind of like use that extra energy and like focus it more on ourselves and like on actually changing, on actually growing and like adapting and just becoming better in relationships overall.
Yeah. And so our intro segment for today, I just want to go over some of the things that we have learned going through this process of doing a podcast. And then in today's like topic, we're going to talk about advice that we have for guys. And so we're calling this episode, Listen to This If You're a Guy. And the reason why I chose this topic for our 1-year episode is because this whole podcast idea started because I wanted to give guys solid advice when it came to relationships and dating. And I just wanted an episode dedicated to that where I can talk about things that I've seen going on and give my own feedback on it. And I think bringing Sania is going to help a lot because she's going to give like a really important perspective in all of this. Okay, so do you want to start us off, Sania? Like, what have been some things that you've learned going through a year's worth of being a podcaster, and especially like talking about dating and relationships?
I think, you know, I kind of want to like go back to our very first episodes of Can Guys and Girls Be Friends? And I think when we were filming that episode, I was at a very delulu phase in my life where I really believed that guys and girls could be so tight and see each other every weekend and spend time alone and and like, but we're still calling it friendship. And I feel like I've like, since then, one big lesson that I've learned is like, you know, to like take accountability for your actions and be like, oh, maybe like these things that I'm doing is leading this person on and I need to stop. Even if they don't want me to stop, I need to stop. Like, you know, like I've learned that it's important to do the right thing because if you don't, again, since episode 1, like a lot more people end up getting hurt.
Yeah.
Another really important thing that I've learned, and I feel like this has been like a very consistent theme since like halfway through and maybe even before, but it wasn't resonating with me as much. But just like the importance of communication in a relationship. Like everybody says it and everyone's like, oh, communicate better and blah, blah, blah. But like really like thinking about what it means to like communicate your wants, your needs, like communicating your expectations and like, you know, like all of those things are important for your partner to know. And I think like previously I never thought about it that much. I thought communicating was like dropping breadcrumbs and giving them hints. And it's like, no, like it's not unromantic to just like say the thing and clearly express yourself. And then I think my big final takeaway was that like, I think it's important to know that relationships are supposed to be work. I think in social media, like everything's just advertised. Everybody shows like the highlights and like the really, really good parts, which makes sense because why would you want to share like the not good parts? But it's like, I think a relationship when I was like younger a year ago, like I took it more as like, oh, you find that perfect person and then everything just works. But it's not that. It's a choice. Like a relationship is a choice. You're choosing to love this person every day. You're choosing to teach them how to love you and to understand you. And you're choosing to work through this because like this is the person that you're choosing.
Yeah. Those are some great takeaways. I think for me, like I'll start off with communication. I used to think I was a great communicator and I used to think I knew everything about communication. But there are a lot of nuances when it comes to communication that I was just unaware of. And so one thing that I learned is that communication never stops. You don't have like, you don't sit down for a conversation with the person that you're dating, talk about your expectations, and then like never readdress it. And to like be a little more specific, I realized like communicating expectations is important when you're fighting. It's important when you have a really busy day. It's really important when you, even when things are going really well, but you're anticipating like plans that you have the next week.
Right.
And so just to give some clear examples, I think I had to learn that our expectations continually change, and a lot of times I'm not even aware of certain expectations that I have. So, for example, like if I really want quality time for my partner, like we can have great quality time at the beginning of a relationship, but let's say the circumstances change and work gets busier, or we start taking on like more responsibilities or hobbies, and all of a sudden it gets harder to spend quality time. At that point, like I need to start communicating my expectations again, and do it before, or try to do it before like we start fighting about it. And so when I first realized, okay, something's a little off before I even react, because a lot of times like I will react out of frustration,
Right.
but like learning, okay, I'm starting to feel frustrated, this is actually like a time for me to talk about it. Let's talk about, oh, these are my expectations, what are you thinking about that, and how can we go about this differently, or is there like room for flex? And so I've learned, okay, like it's not a one-stop shop, it's just like a continual process, and I think I'm learning how to like understand this is when I need to communicate, when I'm starting to feel frustrated instead of reacting. And then I think another big thing that I've learned, which kind of starts to get us into our advice, is that you guys know this, but at the beginning of the podcast, that was a time in my life where I was going on a lot of dates, meeting a lot of people, and it was a good and a bad experience. I think that it brought a lot of confidence because I was meeting a lot of people,
Right.
and I was like, going on dates is fun, but I think it was a really bad experience because, and you can watch our episode on online dating, but it was hard because I never felt chosen, and it takes a long time to get to that point, but I also realized that we have a big responsibility when it comes to dating, and we can very easily hurt other people's feelings, or kind of give them some trauma if we don't handle things well.
That's super
and so you can watch like our episodes where I talk about what happened with Houston. It's probably episodes 7 through 12-ish, but I think like I've learned that when it comes to dating, a lot of times we feel pressure to jump to online dating or to start dating around because we want to have options. And I think I've learned as a guy that sounds nice, but really like I would rather choose someone that I really like, and to actually like make my intentions clear, ask them out, and see where that goes. So I think like what I learned that I prefer, and I think works for a lot of people, is when I like someone that I know in real life, maybe I'm friends with them, maybe like I know them from a distance, to not be so afraid to ask them out, make my intentions clear too, that this is a date, and just to see where things go. And this is where the advice comes in. So I used to be so scared to ask any girl out that I knew in
real
person.
life.
Exactly. And the reason I was just scared of rejection. But I think I learned that if a girl rejects you, she's not the right person for you.
Yeah.
Because even if you convinced her to go out on a date, the fact that she didn't give you a chance, it just means that she's not in the right headspace to date you.
Okay.
And it's totally okay, because you're not asking her to marry you. You're not asking to like start a relationship. You were just asking to get to know her better and going on a date. And I think a lot of it depends on how you deliver the message, and just asking, can I get to know you better, and go out on a date. And it doesn't have to be any more than that. But I think a lot of times guys like girls and they will try to be friends first and not make their intentions clear.
Oh, yeah.
And it just like leads to a lot of different expectations.
Completely.
And you can't talk about them because you're not dating yet. And so I've seen that happen to myself.
Same.
And the biggest thing that I've learned is if I like them, and I feel like I'm ready for a relationship, to go for it, and not go for it in like a grand gesture, but go for it and let me take intentional steps to see where this goes.
Right. And we talked a lot, like as you were talking, Ethan, we talked about communication. So there's communication in the relationship, but also before it happens. You know, like you owe it to yourself if you have feelings to tell the other person.
Yeah.
Like, why would you have these feelings for them and then you're like suffering in silence because they're dating someone else, or like, and they never knew all this time. And like, yes, maybe they're going to say no, but then at least you're on step one of like starting to move on.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than staying there in your Delulu world in your mind.
Yeah. I love that. That's like the main point that I was trying to say, and you summed it up really well. The biggest advice I would give to myself back then, and that I would give right now, is to be true to your feelings. And being true to your feelings means oftentimes communicating your feelings. When I look back on my life and all the times that I did not communicate my feelings, I regret those. I mean, right now, I don't regret it because I'm very happy where I am.
Right. You had to go through that to be here.
Yes. But looking back, I was like, oh, I lacked the maturity to be honest with my feelings and to express it. And a lot of times, like especially like for the guys, we jump to the worst case scenario and it's like, oh, it's the end of the world if I express my feelings and I get shut down. And it does feel like that, I know, but then you're not going to have any regrets. You're never going to wonder if that person was the one who got away. You're going to know because you were honest with your feelings and you tried. And there are a lot of episodes that we have released about how to do that well, how to ask someone out well, where it doesn't feel weird or uncomfortable or awkward.
Or too much pressure for anybody involved.
Exactly. So I think that's a key piece, because I think there are a lot of guys who try to be honest with their feelings, but then it comes off like a little desperate. It comes off like
they're begging kind of, you know?
Or they're not really sure. They're like, oh, like I wanted to see where this goes. And then once they get rejected, it's like they kind of switch.
Yeah, they switch up. Totally.
And they're like, oh, yeah, that's okay.
It's never that deep to begin with.
Or like, do you have any friends that like would be you think would be a good fit for me?
Or sometimes guys will take that rejection and they're like, oh, but we can still be friends, right? And just because they want to keep that person in their life. I think another big part of communication is like, we're talking a lot about what we're doing, is like understanding. So like when the girl replies and says no, you could think a million reasons why you and her would be perfect together. But if she herself is not ready to come to that conclusion, there's nothing you can say to try to convince her of it. Like, even if you do convince her, like Ethan was saying, and, you know, you've been on 1, 2, 3 dates, and, like, now you're convinced her to, like, be your girlfriend. If she's not in it, she's not in it. And, like, stuff you're doing is not going to make her be in it. That's a self-made decision.
That's right.
So you have to keep your ears open. Also, and, like, get the message. You know, if she says she's not interested, like, don't try to, like, linger around and be friends, because that's just, like, devaluing you more.
I think one thing that's really common in dating culture nowadays is trying to like shape yourself so that you can win the other person over. And the whole goal is to win the other person over, not to keep them around. And so everyone thinks that if you got a nice haircut, if you learned to dress better, if you had more riz,
if you lost some weight, if you did your hair better, whatever,
then you would get the girl or you would get the guy. But like, even if you did that, you're not truly being true to yourself if you force yourself into that. And then like what happens after you get the person, let's say it works and they go out with you or they agree to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, I feel like there's a lot of pitfalls because you're forcing yourself to be someone that you're not. And then that can't like carry the weight of a relationship because your true self is going to come out in the relationship.
And you're always going to be scared to show your true self.
Right. And you're not really being honest. You're actually like not being super true to your feelings. You're being true to who you think
they would want.
They want, exactly. And so I want to be careful with that. Like, I know guys out there who really believe like, if I just looked better, if I hit the gym, then I am becoming the type of guy girls want to be with. But I think one of the things that is really important to talk about today is that really like the guy that girls want to be with is a guy who knows what he wants, a guy who is respectful and kind, and a guy who has goals for himself and is working towards something that a girl sees that she can be a part of too.
Right. I totally agree with this, Ethan. I think people can go back to our episode on like how important attractiveness is.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a lot of girls are with partners that like maybe they don't consider to be like 10 out of 10 like their type. But I will take a step back and say like, and just like ask this question to the guys out there, girls out there, people watching, like, okay, let's say you make yourself like the most physically attractive version of yourself. And let's say you are in this relationship. I don't think that a relationship that's based on this person liking you just for how you look is ever going to feel fulfilling. Like, I've definitely ended up in situations where, like, you know, I've tried to work so hard on myself because I really want this person. And, like, but then at some point you're sitting there with this relationship and you're like, they literally only like me for my looks. And that's, like, a very sad realization because, like, sure, I'm all for going to the gym and getting your glow up and like this and that. And sure, if you have to use a girl's name as the reason for it to motivate you, whatever, you know, it's not like you're out there doing drugs for this girl. You know, you're doing something good for your body. So I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, like, your attractiveness is not what keeps a relationship.
That's right. And I do also want to add on and say, there's a huge pressure in our culture nowadays to be attractive. Attractiveness, like people will always say, I will say, to be honest to myself, that it's the first thing that I see.
Same.
But don't let that scare you from trying to date. Because let's say like you don't think you are super attractive physically. At the end of the day, like the things that I just mentioned, being kind and respectful, knowing what you want, having goals for your life, those are the things that are really going to carry the weight of a relationship. And so if, like, for example, you're a guy and you ask a girl out and she shuts you down because she's not physically attracted to you, that girl is not ready for a relationship. She's
looking for something more superficial, maybe.
Exactly. And that's what she's gonna prioritize in the relationship. And like she will see like, okay, this wasn't enough to like carry the relationship. And that's okay. Like, everyone is in that phase. Like, tons of guys are in that phase. We're gonna talk about them soon. But don't let like how you look physically hold you back from trying to date, because if you have those qualities that make you a solid partner, like the right girl is going to want to be with you, even if the physical attraction isn't there from the jump. Yes, it's the first thing that people notice, but someone who's ready for a relationship and is a good person for you is not gonna let that stop you from or stop them from getting into a relationship.
I think it also speaks to like, what kind of relationship are you looking for?
Yeah.
Like, are you looking to just be like that pretty couple and like super superficial, like you both have ugly personalities and don't even enjoy each other's company, but you look good together? Or are you looking for something deeper? Because I think what Ethan's trying to stress is like, yes, attractiveness is important. Yes, you should work on yourself. Like, you know, all of that is like good things, but that shouldn't, if you use that as a reason for like, oh, I can have a relationship or I can't, like, you're going about it probably not in the best way.
Definitely. And now let's flip the script a little bit. I think there's a huge problem nowadays where the guy puts too much emphasis on physical attraction.
True.
And that's not a bad thing.
I remember older episodes
Right.
and things that Ethan would say.
And this makes like a lot of guys extremely picky. That's how they come off as. And like we want to be very clear, and we've stuck by this like all year, but like being physically attracted to your partner is awesome, and it's going to happen. But it's not like the end all be all.
Right.
Like I'm not saying like don't be with someone who is not attractive.
I think you
physically.
should find somebody that you are attracted to. Like, I don't think they need to be someone that all of your friends are sitting in a room. They're like, oh, dude, you bagged a baddie. Like, as long as you are attracted to them, that is all that matters. And I think, I don't know, like, maybe you have ideas in your mind of like, oh, I wanted to be with like a 6-foot guy who looks like this and does this. And it's like, those are, again, all superficial things. Like, at the end of the day, his 6-foot height isn't going to be there when you're crying. You know, like, it's about the person and like his heart.
I agree. And so I think like the goal is to get to that place where you are actually intentionally learning about someone and figuring them out for their personality, to figure out if your goals align and if your values align. But I think specifically there's these guys who are extremely picky, and if you know that you're not gonna be attracted to this person physically, then don't string them along. Don't even go down that process of trying to learn their personality. If you know that you're that type of person where you need to be like 100% physically attracted, like don't string someone along because you're trying to get to know their personality. Because I've seen so many times where a guy is like a little iffy on a girl, gives it a chance, and is like going on multiple dates to like learn about the personality. The personality actually is a good fit, but then they just keep going back to the physical, and they're like, I can't do this. And maybe it's heartbreaking.
And like maybe that's like something that they have to work on, and they have to like think about like, is that super important?
Yeah.
Like for a real serious relationship. But also like you're right, Ethan, sometimes you're just not attracted to that person, and that's okay. Like there's so many people in the world, and like, and just because you don't find this person attractive doesn't mean someone else won't.
Right. And that does not give you the right to string someone along. This, like, even though we're trying to promote like getting to know the other person and their values and their personality, it should never come at the cost of hurting their feelings.
I feel like you should have at least some interest to want to date. Like, I think I've definitely gone on dates with people that I'm like, you know, not super interested, but I'm like, let's see, maybe the personality will like win me over. You know, and then I feel like at the point when you're kind of like, the personality didn't do it enough to like, you know, if you think of the sum, it's like, okay, personality plus attractiveness, like I'm not hitting my threshold of like I want to be with them. Then like as soon as you realize that, you need to take a step back and not string this person along, because they're I don't know, giving you attention and making you feel validated. And stuff like that.
And the ways that you can make sure that you don't string them along, because what Sania said is actually like what we would recommend. Like you're not sure if you really find them attractive, but you give them a chance. The way that you make sure you don't string them along is you make sure you don't date for too long. You make sure you don't get physical with them, because so many like emotions and feelings and attachment comes from that.
Definitely.
And then also you're just like respectful and you communicate well. And so when you are not feeling it, you're able to have a very honest conversation and say, hey, I just see you more as a friend, and this is not something that I want to keep going forwards with. And that's totally okay. But a lot of times like people are out there and they're like being like very physically intimate, and then they the whole time they're not sure about the person, but they just, it's their way of dating. But you're gonna really hurt people when you're kind of just messing around and you're not serious about them.
Ethan kind of touched on this, but we're a very no ghost podcast. So like definitely when you're not feeling it, I feel like guys, they feel very, they see girls as very emotional, and they're like, oh, I don't want to hurt her feelings because I'm not into her. I think you're hurting her feelings more if you're dragging it out,
Right.
Like Ethan said, you can say it in a nice way. You can do it. I don't know. We talked about how to end things, I think, in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
So there's lots of strategies in there, but you have to like be honest with yourself and with that person, and like, set you both free.
Yeah.
By communicating that you're not seeing it going anywhere.
And the text can be very simple. I think a lot of times the fear is like, oh, this is going to turn into a whole conversation. I need to send like a whole text and make it sound nice.
All the reasons and give all my explanations.
Right. And don't assume that the other person expects that out of you. Just send a simple text. And if you didn't drag out the relationship, it should be okay. It's an easy thing to move on from. I think one thing that I want to touch on is, and this happens both with guys and girls, but a lot of times, like, we're spending a lot of time with someone as a friend, and the other person is starting to catch feelings.
Right.
But they're not really making things clear. I don't feel like, let's say I'm the guy, I don't feel like I need to make myself very clear. We're just hanging out. I feel like it's also really important for, like, I'm just gonna call out the guys, like, be a man, speak up. Like, don't, I think a lot of times, like, it doesn't matter whether you're the guy or you're the girl. Like, one of you is, like, starting to, like, catch feelings. They're getting, like, trying to get a little closer. They're being a little lovey-dovey. A lot of times people would just brush that under the rug and not address it. And then, like, the pressure builds. And so I'm just going to call out the guys out there because I'm a guy, but don't let that happen. Like, if you sense that something's going on, and guys, you're not dumb. Like, we all know, like, when someone's starting to text us more, or when they're sending, like, more emojis, or they're, like, physically getting closer to you. Bring it up, and don't just allow it to be an easy conversation early on, then allow it to be a hard conversation later on. Because I've seen a lot of friendships get ruined because the guy is not communicating, and then he has all these expectations, or sometimes, like, the girl has all these expectations, and then all of a sudden you realize much later on that the other person can't meet your expectations, and they only saw you as a friend, and but you got a little too far.
I think, like, my advice to the guys, because I've been in this situation way too many times, is you need to, like, have some self-respect and have some self-confidence. Like, you need to know your worth. If you started off as friends and it was just platonic, and then all of a sudden you found yourself like, wow, I can really see a future with this girl. Like, because, like, I wouldn't say ruin, like, a good friendship over, like, oh, I'm kind of curious, let me go on a date. If you're her friend, you already know a lot of her values. Like, so, you should only disturb the topic if you're actually interested in something serious. And if when you bring it up and she says, like, no, I don't want that, you need to be honest with yourself and, like, decide, like, are you okay with her being in your life as just a friend? And if the answer is no, then you need to put on your your big boy pants and be ready to walk out and say, okay, well, I'm sorry I've caught too many feelings for you. Like, if you don't want what I want, like, I'm not comfortable with just being friends. Because I think Ethan's super right. It's, like, a difficult thing to bring up, but the alternative of, like, telling yourself, like, oh, it's okay, one day she's going to catch feelings, and you keep doing all of these things and your expectations keep building. At the end of the day, you've ruined a really good friendship. And you're villainizing the girl for nothing. Like, she communicated herself. So, like, it's your responsibility. If you have feelings, your feelings are your responsibility to express. And to, like, value your feelings. Like, like, it's not the girl's responsibility to, like, completely take a step back and be like, oh, like, I told you we were just friends. Why do you still keep, like, texting me so much? Like, you communicated to her you're okay with it. So, like, you need to respect yourself and know when it's time to walk away.
That's right. And if you're in this position, you're catching feelings for someone, you're trying to express them, and maybe they're not sitting down with you and having a conversation. Maybe they're being a little iffy and hot and cold. they're already giving you their answer.
Yeah.
And so, like, also protect yourself and don't let yourself fall into this cycle of like, oh, I really love them. I really want something with them. When you don't feel anything being reciprocated, or even if you're questioning, either have that conversation and be very honest, or take that as a sign that they don't share the same feelings. Because I've been in the situation where I'm like, they will give me like some signs, but not everything. And so I just like allow myself to be strung along. At that point, it's a sign that I need to have a conversation and say, hey, I'm a little confused right now because there's like, sometimes there's signs, sometimes they're not. This is how I feel personally. Can I hear how you feel? And just figure it out from there. One thing I want to point out is, let's say the roles were different, because I see this a lot, especially this happens at church, where a lot of girls, they don't focus as much on physical attraction, and they're like, I really want to find a nice guy.
Right.
I want to really find someone who goes to church and like loves God. And so the next time they find a nice guy at church who is their age and is like even a little physically attractive, I think they like really want to be with that guy.
Right.
And for the guys out there, like, if this happens to you, you have a big responsibility there, because a lot of guys, you'll just kind of play along with it. You like the attention, and you will like welcome being friends with them. But there's a big danger to that. Like, it's great to have friends, and it's great to have friends who are girls. But when you sense that there's some interest on their side, it's time for a conversation. Because if you allow them to like just keep being friends, like, they have serious interest in you. Sometimes they're not being like super obvious, but it's still like on you, because they are your friend, and you need to also let them down if you're not interested in anything. Don't just think like you can keep being friends and that like you're not gonna hurt their feelings later.
I feel like this one, like, people can have like a very easy cop out and be like, well, it's not my feelings. Like,
right.
I don't have, like, they can play dumb and be like, I don't think she's interested. Like, I don't know. Like, that's not my problem. Like, if she was, she would tell me.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I totally agree with all of that. And if you did choose to go that route, you're not in the wrong. But again, we're trying to say, like, really, like, instead of looking outward, like, look in. Do you feel like she's flirting? Do you feel like she's starting? And like, it might be a super awkward conversation, because you're going to sit there and be like, hey, like, I feel like we've been getting closer, and like, you know, just like, if you have any interest, like, I just wanted to say, I just see this as a friendship. You're kind of like rejecting them before they've even done a big thing to even let you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of those times the girls are going to react and be like, what? Like, I never liked you to begin with, yada, yada, yada. But if you feel in your heart that like their behavior towards you has changed and they see something serious, like, again, it's better to just like, the girl will be hurt, yes, and you'll feel awkward and hurt, but it saves everybody a lot of trouble in the long run. I think people don't realize like how valuable their time is. I don't know if I'm just saying this because I'm starting to get older, but like, you know, who you spend 2 months dating, like, that's valuable time. Those 2 months could have been somebody that like was never very serious, and you just chose to ignore all the red flags and continue in the relationship just to be in the relationship.
Yeah.
Or you could have spent those 2 months building a solid foundation with someone.
Yeah.
So, like, don't sell yourself, like, short. You know, like, use your time, like, intentionally, I think.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I want to touch on is, like, older guys. And when you're an older single dude, it's hard because I know the mindset is, oh, there aren't a lot of girls out there my age. Like, they've all been taken.
But
all the
that's
good
why
ones
they come
have
up
been
to the
taken.
younger girls.
Exactly. And I want to talk about that situation because I've seen it happen so often where...
You sound very against it.
Well,
As a girl who's kind of old, kind of young, I'm kind of like, you know, if you want to provide, like, it's hard to find a guy that's your own age that can be like a provider and take care of you.
Yeah. I think I'm like specifically thinking about like what pursuing a younger girl is like.
Like the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
And I want to emphasize that this needs to be done in a very respectful way. We've talked about this on the podcast before, like in little bits, but like I think it's time to really address it explicitly. And it's okay to like be attracted to someone who's younger than you, and like it's okay for there to be an age gap, but it is not okay for you to like try to become close friends with them and to like hang out with them all the time, like one-on-one. You have to be really sure that they are okay spending time with you and that they're okay like with an age gap.
Okay, I'm gonna just speak from the girl's perspective, and I think this is kind of what Ethan is trying to get at.
Yeah.
If you are an older guy who's interested in a younger girl, I think in general, traditional dating, like, you know, even if the couple is the same age, like the guy tends to have more weight or power in the relationship, just in, you know, everyone's the same age. But then once you get older, the power dynamic shifts super drastically. You know, the girl has a lot of trust in you. If you're saying like you have good intentions and you're not going to do anything, like she's believing you a lot more, and like there's just a lot more trust, there's a lot more respect, there's a lot more pressure because you're older for the girl to be polite and respectful and like say yes to certain things. So I think, you know, like Ethan said, it's okay to like somebody younger, and maybe the younger people like older people, like that's fine too. But I think as an older guy, you really have to wait for the girl to make the move.
Yeah.
You cannot, because there's such a big power dynamic, you cannot, like, even little things that you could do with girls your own age, you cannot do them with younger girls because they're already so vulnerable in that relationship. So they need to come up to you. Like, you know, maybe you can come and say hello, but if they liked you, like, you need to be patient. I mean, you're already old. Like, you know, like, let them reach out, let them text you, let them make plans. And like, I know people that have dated older people, and like, it was totally the girl pursuing the relationship, which is how it should be. That's how you show her. You respect her. You know, I feel like at the end of the day, a relationship, all a girl wants in a relationship, and I hope, you know, the girls don't come for me, but like, I feel like this is true. They just want to feel safe. And like, it won't feel safe if there's pressure and there's like all these duties and all these like intense things that you're feeling because of this older person. It'll feel safe if he kind of lets you like guide it more.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's hard to tell like if a girl is actually pursuing you or not. So let her be the one to like initiate hanging out or to even have like conversations about dating.
Yeah.
But if you are feeling confused and you feel like there are signs,
ask them.
Yeah, you can ask and let her
let her answer.
Exactly.
You know? Like, you're still entitled to your feelings even though you're an older guy. We're not saying we're taking all your power away. We're just saying let her set the terms of when you meet, where you meet, how frequently you talk, like things like that.
Definitely. I think that's really, really solid advice. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to guys is there needs to be a very baseline level of respect, hygiene, and this is like really important. Like, I've heard stories and I've known guys who like will eat in bed and will like make a mess and not clean it up. And a lot of times like they're like that because someone cleaned up after them when they were growing up. And so by the time they're living alone or they're living with their partner, they are not being very thoughtful about how to keep things clean. But tied to this is like a certain level of respect that you need to have going into any relationship. If you're not ready to do this, then you're going to have a really hard time dating because you're going to also like be causing hurt onto other people. And what I mean is to like be willing to hear someone out and, you know, like, if someone is like, well, he in bed, and like, you know, like, he will clean up after them when they were growing up. And so by the time they're living alone or they're living with their partner, they are not being very thoughtful about how to keep things clean. But tied to this is like a certain level of respect that you need to have going into any relationship. If you're not ready to do this, then you're going to have a really hard time dating because you're going to also like be causing hurt onto other people. And what I mean is also like being willing to, I guess, just be thoughtful and not like just only try to get your way. Like, for example, like there's this one story of this guy and this girl they were dating, and the girl thought that he was immature and wanted to break up. And so like in response to that, he cried and he cried, and there's and then they stayed together. And so there's in that situation, like, you need to be respectful. If you can't just cry and get your way for everything.
This goes for the girls too. I think, Ethan, this is some very solid advice.
Yeah.
I hope people, hear our words and see value in them. I think, like you said, we're our biggest success stories.
Yeah.
And so this advice that Ethan's giving, like, it's got my Sania stamp of approval on it. I think it's all solid, very applicable. And, if you do want a serious, healthy relationship, valuing your time, valuing the other person's time, and being respectful of everyone's feelings, I feel like this is like a good set of tips.
Definitely. So there's definitely more things to talk about. And so, I mean, tune in to the next episode for that. We'll wrap up this episode with a profile review, and it's been a little bit since we've done one, but it's been 1 year, and so it's a nice way to complete a cycle of 1 year of podcasting. And so I have pictures of this dude. So there's actually there's many people looking for profile reviews online. This is one of the recent ones.
Okay.
So we got the profile right here.
I know I said that I was going to give my profile review in 1 year.
Yeah.
But I literally swiped, deleted all my apps. Like, my phone is clean.
Yeah. That's okay.
I know. I feel bad because I was like, oh, I was supposed to do that.
They were definitely looking forward to it, but it's okay. I think that if you ever run into Sania and you have a conversation with her about where she's at in her life, you're going to be really glad she's not showing you a profile review right now. So,
or I could pull a Val. Okay, let's look at this profile. So is this like the very top?
Yeah, so we just scroll. This is the beginning of the profile.
Is this Hinge?
Yeah.
Isn't there usually like a bio, like...
Oh, that's coming.
Oh.
So it just starts off with a picture. Come on, you've done this enough.
Okay. Cool picture. I see that he's a doctor. I'm already going to continue on because he's a doctor.
Oh, really?
I mean, if you're a firefighter, a doctor, something that's considered like a very manly, like, you're going to take care of me, you have money, like, profession, I'm going to be like, all right, let's see what else is there.
So in the past, you've talked about how, like, the first picture is, like, the model face.
Right.
But you're saying that if you're a doctor or lawyer or astronaut, yeah, well,
it's just something to catch, like, okay, model face equals something that catches your eye. But you're wearing your doctor's clothes, like, you're catching my eye. Like, you're already sticking out compared to all the other people posting selfies or pictures with their dogs or nieces or nephews,
What? So, okay, I personally think that he should go with a normal picture, like, where, like, it's like a casual Saturday and he's out and about. It can be, like, a more, like, model picture. Because this is a selfie. The top of his head is cropped out. Not a big fan of that. But if you put this picture a little later on, and then it's like, oh, shoot, like, this guy, he has motion.
Okay. Okay, I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to build out the rest of the thing.
Yeah.
As a girl who very much is, like, wanting a provider, when he says my uniform and then this picture, I was like, wow, he's hardworking. The first thing he wants to talk about himself is his profession. And it's a lot of hard work to become a doctor. Like, that's cool AF. Like, I'm already impressed by you.
Okay.
just the girl's perspective.
Okay, yeah. Okay, the next one, 2 Truths and a Lie. I have a YouTube video with over 6 million views. I was in a religious cult. I have a rare condition where my heart is on the right side.
Wow, these are great.
Really?
He's missing a period on the on the last one, the rare condition.
Okay.
Punctuation's important. Like, hello, you're a doctor. Like, you should be, like, on top of your But I think this is really good. I feel like it's, like, you know, a lot of them made me laugh a little bit. A lot of them I'm just like, whoa, like, I don't know what some of these are, like the heart condition.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I'm still curious. I'm not bored yet.
Okay, well, what kind of reply would you give to something like this?
I would guess, like, I was just thinking about it. I was like, I would guess the religious cult.
Oh.
Yeah, they're too feel. And then he can tell me about it. Like,
oh, like you look too much of a good boy to be in a religious cult?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or, like, what video got 6 million views? Like, send me the link. Or, like...
Oh, yeah.
Or, like, wow, you really are a doctor. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll buy into that.
Okay.
Okay, so, now we see his stats. Okay. So...
Long-term relationship, open to short.
Yeah.
And then we've talked about we don't really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pick one way or the other.
Yeah, well, it's a little confusing, right? He says...
The text, ideally looking for a serious relationship that leads to marriage, but I'm open to whatever happens. That kind of sounds like where I was a year ago, where it's like, you know, you want marriage, but you're feeling a little not super self-confident to, like, ask for what you think you deserve.
It's true. Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, like, I really want marriage, but I'll take whatever I can get.
Right, yeah. And so it definitely looks more confident if you just left it as long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm. Like deleting the sentence after the comma, like, but I'm open to whatever. Like, that just made me get, like, a little baby ick. I'm just like, oh, you're not that confident. You don't really know what you want.
Exactly. And you're, like, you sound a little confused.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of sound like you're willing to settle for whatever you get. Which I'm like,
yeah.
I want to be something that somebody chooses because they know what they want, not like you're just settling. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it kind of shoots you in the foot, even if you're looking for something long-term or you're looking for something short-term, because you just look a little confused.
Yeah.
Like, pick one.
The rest of everything, I think it looks good. Yeah?
Yeah, totally. I love how you can speak multiple languages. Yeah. I think that's super attractive.
I do think you should put your height on there. As a girl, like...
Oh, it is. We just can't see it.
Okay. I was going to say, as a girl, I do look at the height.
Yeah.
As a short girl, I still look at the height.
What? We just talked about how, like, if it's
we have our things, remember? We have our attractiveness plus personality.
Okay. The truth comes out.
Take me back to, this looks super fun. I love that he's smiling. I wish it was like the people in the back look great. It's just like a little too zoomed in on his face.
Yeah, I agree.
But I like it also because it's like this, like, it's giving like a cutesy little vibe of like, I don't do social media. My pictures aren't aesthetic. Like, this is just who I am. Which is like, yes, we talked about model picture. Yes, we talked about backgrounds and lighting and this and that and outfits. But, like, not everybody has to fit into that box, you know?
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about a picture with him and two other girls?
I'm happy that it's two other girls. If it was one other girl, I'd be like, alarm bells.
Yeah.
But two other girls is like a group hangout. Or, like, maybe the girls are together. Or, like...
But maybe this is a sign that he's, like, in the friend zone. I'm not trying to be mean. But I'm just, like, asking.
No, I feel like... I think it just means he's, like, friendly with girls, which is, like, a good thing. He has a soft side. It's good to have girlfriends. I think that's a green flag.
Okay. I'm
yeah.
fine.
Like, nobody's, like, touching him or holding him or, like, you know, he's, like, pretty distanced. Like, so I'm happy with that.
Okay.
I'm happy that he's not, like, the back of the boat. Like, so everyone's leaning on him. Like, I'm content with the positions.
Cool. A favorite memory of mine?
Change the photo.
Yeah. Like...
First of all, it's just so many backs of heads. I understand that you're trying to say, like, this was, like, a fun time. And, like, I guess it tells a good story of, like, oh, like, you enjoyed spending time with your friends and when you're having fun. But I would just, like...
Yeah. This one is, like, it's helpful, like, when you're having conversation. Oh, look at this time.
Yeah.
Like, when I, like...
But as an image, it's not helping you very much.
Yeah, this is when I want to see, like, more of you and, like figure out... Well, you're trying to do that. I'm trying to figure out, like, what you're interested in, what you like to do on the weekends. This is, like, it's just too hard to figure out what's going on here.
And maybe that's your intent. Maybe you want people to ask you questions like, oh, what were you guys doing? Like, who are all these people? And, like, I see that you're standing up at the front, so you're not shy. Like, it does tell me a lot about you. But I wish, like, maybe you could have saved this for the end or something. Or, like,
No, take it out.
Take it out?
Take it out for sure.
Yeah. Like, again, it's helping, but it's like... And again, also not a lot of people have a lot of pictures of themselves, but we said, like, find a friend, grab a camera, and get some pictures.
Yeah, the picture needs to be clear about what's going on.
Yeah.
This picture just needs more context.
Yeah.
So it's a better picture to show when you're in person.
Okay.
Okay. A life goal of mine, I'm really passionate about mental health, and I want to be a psychiatrist who makes the world a better place with more empathy and understanding.
Sorry, I just kind of went like that in the middle of, like, reading this.
Well, why did you do that?
I want to make the world a better place. Like, I'm sorry, that just sounds like something I used to write for, like, my life goals when I was in, like, the 2nd grade. Like, I want to make the world a better place. And also, like, now I'm feeling like you kind of, like, I don't know, catfished me because in your first photo, you were already a doctor. And then you said all those complicated words about heart conditions. And now you're saying you want to be a psychiatrist. So I'm like, are you not any type of doctor right now? Like, was that a picture from, like, med school or, like, you know, when you were doing, like, your rounds or something? Like, what kind of doctor are you currently?
Yeah.
So it's just making me, like, doubt you a lot. I would, like, I would reword this for sure.
Yeah, I think so. This one is very, what is the word? It's like idealistic.
Yeah, it sounds like a kid wrote it.
Yeah, except we're not trying to be mean. Like don't like take that the wrong way. But we're just.
It'd be
like,
good for it to, like, be a little bit more thought out and, like, well rounded, like a complete thought. Like, I liked where you were starting. I'm really passionate about mental health. Like, I don't know. Like, and I want to be the kind of person that doesn't shy away from hard conversations and is always there for their friends. Like, something.
Yeah.
You know, like, you said I'm really passionate about mental health. Cool, green flag. You want to be a psychiatrist, so I'm kind of confused. Like, what are you currently? If that's what you want to be.
Right. I think you can just, like, make it a little more concrete. So I'm really passionate about mental health and I want to be a psychiatrist. I want the people that I work with to go home every day feeling like the best version of themselves.
Yeah, like something a little more tangible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We all want the world to be a better place, but make it a little more concrete and sell us on it.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, me in the wild. Dude, I hate this picture. I feel like he's gonna murder someone. I take this picture out.
I didn't want to say it. I mean, I like your outfit. You have good dressing sense. Like, you have a button-up shirt, a nice quarter zip, and a nice jacket. But, like, the top of your head's cut off again, dude. Like, either we're losing the chin or the top of the head.
Exactly.
I really need you to ask your friends to take some pictures.
Yeah.
Like, your outfits are good, and it can be a picture of you in the wild. But
and you have a lot of friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, someone needs to take a picture of
I get it. You know, you got good lighting, this and that, but it just looks very scary. Like,
yeah.
It looks like a different person than the person in the boat who is smiling.
Yeah, because you opted for a selfie, half your face is in the shadow, and then, like, you just look very serious in this picture. Like, this story is not telling, or this picture is not telling us much more than you have a good sense of style. But it's time for us to, like, know more about you than that.
And I would also say, like, maybe change the caption. Like, you know, the me in the wild ones should be, like, when you're out there doing something, like,
an action
I want to
shot.
see, like, your extreme crazy side. You know, like, that's what that caption makes me want to look for. Not a selfie. Because now I'm kind of like, oh, like, are you maybe a little tame and a little, like, coloring in the lines? Like, and which is okay. Maybe some girls are really looking for the guy who's like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, you can make your picture better.
Yeah, definitely. Like, this is a good chance to put a travel picture. Like, you know all these languages. It's a good chance to take a picture of, like, you doing something, like a sport or something.
Yeah, tell us, like, another dimension of yourself, something that you enjoy.
Okay. I want someone who is comfortable with being together in silence, emotionally mature and motivated, likes nerdy stuff like playing video games, staying indoors, and watching anime and shows.
Okay. You really know what you want. I can say that.
In terms of, like, hobbies.
Yeah, hobbies are great. I like that you put those Like, but I feel like, again, I would like rephrase it because right now I was reading that and I was like, wow, I like don't apply to any of those. Like, maybe I shouldn't swipe, you know?
Yeah.
I would like say like, you know, like the very first sentence comes across as like, shut up. Like you could just replace that with someone who just shuts up.
Right.
So maybe just saying it nicer. Like, you know, like I want someone that doesn't feel silence is awkward. Or doesn't feel like they have to fill every awkward silence.
Mm-hmm.
Or emotionally mature is great and motivated. That feels like, I don't know, it just kind of conveys to me that maybe you've been in like a very not emotionally mature relationship in the past.
Yeah.
And now you're a little scared and you want that.
This is time to put some pizzazz now. So
Yeah.
it's like I want someone who will call me in the middle of the night to tell me about what they learned that day, or like about like a level in this video game that they can't beat. There's just a more fun way to say all of this, because right now you're just being very literal.
Blunt, yes.
And it's not as fun. Like, if I don't match any of these things,
Yeah.
I'm going to swipe left.
Right. There's no room for anyone to say anything if they don't match.
Right.
Which, again, is fine if that's what you're looking for, a very specific, like, cookie-cutter thing.
Yeah.
That is totally fine, but I still think you can maybe try to say it in, like, a nicer way.
Yeah.
Some of the sentences.
Yeah, or like some of this is like staying indoors. It's like having a at-home adventure day. Something like that. It's staying indoors, but sell me on it. Like, get me excited about these things so that even, like, maybe I love staying indoors, but everyone wants someone who, like, will spice things up.
Yeah,
exactly.
And do stuff.
Make things fun.
It just sounds like you're kind of like with the list of things that you want to do, I'm just like, oh, does he not want to ever put in any effort or do anything? These all feel low effort.
Yeah.
Low energy.
Yeah, it can come off that way, even though we're sure that's not who you are. Okay. My life behind the scenes. Okay,
I like
so
this
playing
one,
video games.
but I feel like I've kind of had it with the selfies. I mean, this one's okay because you're playing games. I'm trying to figure out, you know, easy to ask, like, what game are you playing? And, like, he has the little gamer brand mouse and keyboard. So, like, you know, we see that you take your gaming seriously. You look happy, which is good.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm seeing too many selfies overall.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this one I have no problem with. I like how you kept it towards the end, but definitely, like, you need other shots to be able to complement this. Action shots, full body shots.
Yeah, I was just going to say full body.
Yeah. And not just selfies. Okay. So he heard us. This is not a selfie. The moment I knew my modeling career was over. Okay, so he's showing his silly side.
Which is fine. And he looks happy.
He's with friends.
He's showing his hobbies, like things he likes to spend his time doing.
Yeah.
Which is also cool. I, like, wish it didn't look like you were picking your nose. I know it's supposed to be funny.
Right.
But, like...
It's a tiny bit gross.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be able to show your silly side without coming off gross.
Yeah.
Like, this is okay for date 5.
Yeah, for, like, somebody who you're close to and you already like. But, like, for a person who, like, literally doesn't know you, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Again, and, like, they could be totally, like, fine with it, like, months into dating. But just right in the beginning, I'm just like,
Yeah. We know this is not who you are.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make sure that the perception of you, the first impression of you, goes well, and there's not anything that is, like, a little uncomfy or, like, so, like, we love that you're comfortable with yourself, that you can be silly, but for a first impression, this is not, like...
It's not helping you.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I think, like, this dude's super solid. Of course, like, there's some work on the pictures and the prompts, making them more fun.
Yeah.
So I think it's a solid start, and I think we have some solid advice for you. But solid start, and you look like a nice guy. Okay. Well, there we go. We finished our 1-year episode, and this one is a little longer than we have been doing, but we hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.